am here to tell about a major part of my life. I came from an abusive family of 5. My mother was narcissist. We naturally long for her physical and emotional sustenance, and her protection, and that we have value. Well, that wasn't my mom. She was more concerned with being the queen bee, which is fine in some ways, but when you don't set any boundaries, nor do you protect your children, and you always put yourself first, it's not a good thing. I was conditioned to always put others' needs first, despite myself. Conditioned to be a people pleaser. Not everyone involved with a narcissist is not necessarily a codependent. In some cases, such as my case, I was very gullible. I did a lot of people pleasing and people who don't set boundaries. I was very gullible. I would just take on what was said to me and not question it. I would just go with the flow. Not setting healthy boundaries. And not honoring your own opinion and your own take on things. And when you grow up with a narcissist parent, you are programmed and there is data that is downloaded into your brain. Your brain is like a sponge and you suck up all this information. Good parents teach you to have your own thoughts, feelings, and opinions, allowing the child to have their own space, form their own personality, and do everything that the narcissist parent insists, because at some point the fear is instilled into the child: if you do not do as I wish, there are consequences involved. They can be beaten and fits of rage. So, the child quickly learns to not talk back to the parent, and if they do, that is met with the parent making the child feel small, like the smallest person, and feel unloved, which is true. You are unloved. Because the narcissist parent never loves unconditionally. The child has to give to get. The narcissist parent systematically breaks down any sense of self, so that when you come to an age and you realize you do have your thoughts and feelings. But on the other hand, you're not allowed to speak about that. You're not allowed to verbalize your likes and dislikes. This is instilled and carries on to adulthood. So, your definition of love is control. It's done in a subtle way, not with the intention of hurting the other, but in gaining validation, of gaining love, gaining support. So there is a pattern of control, but not a malignant control. When the narcissist does it, it's very unhealthy. When the codependent does it, it's because it's what they have been taught is how to love someone else, and they don't know any other way, and often don't know they're doing it. Your way to control the other person is to please people. If I please you, then you need to give me love. If I pretend I don't need anyone, then I will not be abandoned. External validation is because they have never been taught to have that sense of self. So, your sense of self has been crushed and your self-esteem brought to a very low state. The key to neutralizing this is to be open to the fact that you have a self. It's just you have never been taught to access that self. It's a huge task to know even what color you like or what your favorite meal is. Taking the lead in your own life, voicing your own opinion. It's not about controlling the other or by pleasing others. You need to be open to the fact that there is a self. It's just buried under your narcissist parents' downloads. So, these behavior strategies that codependents have learned from an early age are designed to protect yourself from being abandoned, and it will show up in 2 ways. One is to avoid confrontation. You will people please and you will be silent. And the second way is pretending you don't need anybody else and pretending you can go through life without anyone on your own, that you do not need anyone else. I also took this attitude because I didn't want to be anything like my mother, who is very needy. You cannot delete that fear of being abandoned by the narcissist parent. That will always be in the background. A life of less giving and less people pleasing, and more life self-love and more compassion for self, and redefining who you are. You had no control over what was downloaded into your mind at a very young age. I also get the feeling like I'm waiting for the hammer to come down, as if hoping to not get in trouble for having an opinion or to have you not like me. As a child, I was also the scapegoat, and my oldest brother David was the golden child. David would protect me from my mean sister Kimmy. Kimmy would insist that I get her a glass of water at least once a day, and if I didn't, she would beat me. My mother would do nothing about this. My mother would encourage me to be a sweet little girl. I was her last child, and I was the one that was going to be programmed to take care of her. Therefore my sister Kimmy had a meaner spirit than I did. In fact, mother would pit us against one another. And as a little girl I had admired my sister Cindy. She was 4.0 student. And on the swim team. And the boys liked her. And she was cheerful. And she, unlike my other sister Kimmy, never beat me. I had even envisioned my sister Cindy protecting me like my brother David did from Kimmy. Traits of the scapegoat. As children, scapegoats are often empathic or sensitive. Many take on emotional responsibility that does not belong to them. Justice-seeking. Internalizes blame. Emotionally reactive. Highly sensitive. Protective of others. Caretaking. I took care of my daughter and always put her first. I wanted to make sure I was nothing like my mother. I also took care of my granddaughter, my mom, and then my sister, Cindy. As an adult, I wanted to bring the family together. I felt that my mother was totally irresponsible in creating a family unit and felt that family was important. I was idealistic, and was naive to the concept of people who actually want to hurt other people. She refuses that she had anything to do with this relationship and even denies what she has said. Despite that, I have recorded our conversations and I have asked her to take her part of the responsibility. Waiting for my sister to step up and take responsibility for her part is like a person waiting in a chair who eventually turns into a skeleton. So instead I have decided to write this narrative about people who feel a sense of empowerment from controlling others because they don't have control of their own lives. To people who simply enjoy being cruel to others. I imagine everyone else has an idea of such people because these people warned me about my sister Cindy. I thought they were talking about her desire to fight world issues and felt that was a matter of choice, and who was I to judge her? It's God's position to judge others, not mine. I had no idea that what they were actually talking about was someone who is evil. I was idealistic. I believed that if you did good things, then good things would come back to you. I realize a lot of people believe that we're responsible for our own actions. For the most part I agree with that. That's why I have worked super hard all of my life, but my own sister, who I have taken under my wing, is out to ruin my life with her manipulation and lies. It is appalling to me. Who would think anyone would want to do that to anyone? How much lower can you get than to ask someone who has a good heart, and when they ask for help you help them only to have them attack? Because you're unsuspecting they consider you weak. As if you should know that they're possessed with an evil spirit. Those were her intentions from the beginning, and I am still shocked. But when you're being emotionally manipulated by someone who has spent their whole life emotionally manipulating others, it's different. That's like saying when a mouse is caught by a cat, it's the mouse's fault. This manipulation can happen to anyone that has feelings. So she can feel better about the fact that they fucked up their own lives. I can see why in the UK they are making this type of behavior that Cindy did against the law. I still find it difficult to fathom that someone could be so evil. How could your own sister, who you taken under your wing, want so much to hurt me? This is how my relationship begun with my sister. I hadn't seen my sister for about 30 years other than when she visited for the summer a few times. Our relationship picked back up with her needing a orthopedic surgeon. And I happened to have been working at Olympia Orthopedics. It started with my sister Cindy calling me that she needed help, that she had a really bad knee and none of the doctors in Alaska were taking her seriously. She asked if I knew any surgeons that I worked for that did knee surgery, and if she paid cash could I get her a discount. Also, could she stay with me during her surgery? I allowed her into my home and nursed her back to health and allowed her to get close to my granddaughter. I had no idea that she's a psychopath. I retired shortly after her surgery and took a vacation trip to Hawaii. The psychopath will use you for whatever purpose she wants: a discount on surgery, money, sadistic pleasure, or a mask of normalcy, and keep you in your place by getting you to focus on your weaknesses and pouncing on your insecurities. However, no relationship with a psychopath starts that way. On the contrary, once they set their eyes on you as their main target, psychopaths typically engage in whirlwind charm, and believe me, the psychopath can be extremely charming. They flatter you constantly in the beginning. Who doesn't want their big sister's approval and for their big sister to be impressed by them?
what a great reward that would be. Ooh. All right, well, listen, I'm going to kind of cut the phone call kind of short, but I'm going to see that around, and if I can't do the Cabo gig, I definitely want to come on down to Olympia then sometime. But I think we should shoot for the Cabo. If you're always looking for somebody.
But what a great reward that would be. Oh. All right, well, listen, I'm going to kind of cut the phone call kind of short. But I'm going to stew that around. If I can't do the Cabo gig, I definitely want to come down to Olympia sometime. I think we should shoot for the Cabo because you're always looking for somebody.
She's being played.
Oh, yeah.
And once you realize that, you have a better chance around the social structure of America. Chance to do a heart-to-heart talk with Autumn. I would explain that to her, that she's been victimized and that this whole thing, that this drug was absolutely designed to be highly addictive. It might actually give her the strength to realize she's being played.
Oh, yeah.
And once you realize that, you have a better chance, because then you're not like, oh, I'm just a loser and that's why I can't quit. Instead of beating yourself up, you need to realize that you got caught in a nasty web and it was designed to do exactly what it's doing to you. That it is, and even a one-time application get you drawn right in.
She's being played. And once you realize that you have a better chance from the social structure of America, chance to do a heart-to-heart talk with Autumn, I would explain that to her, that she's been victimized and that this whole thing, that this drug was absolutely designed to be highly addictive. It might actually give her the strength to realize she's being played. And once you realize that, you have a better chance. Because then you're not like, oh, I'm just a loser and that's why I can't quit. Instead of beating yourself up, you need to realize that you got caught in a nasty web. And it was designed to do exactly what it is doing to you. That all it takes is a one-time application to get you drawn right into the web.
Anything done. So
Okay.
we kind of got to do that. But nice to talk to you. Nice to know Mom's still alive. Right on, baby.
Yeah.
I didn't get anything done, so I gotta do that. But nice to hear Mom's still alive. Right on, baby. When Mom got put into a nursing home and we had to put her house back together, I paid for a round-trip ticket for my sister Cindy and shared my life and my home with her, so she could have a last visit with Mom. I never thought about being love-bombed by a sister. That's exactly what she was doing. She was love-bombing me. Love-bombing is the most malicious and deceitful portion of the entire relationship. It is filled with charm, lies, mirroring, fake affection and lots of strategic messages. This stage is extremely important for the psychopath, because it determines to them how many boundaries you willingly will allow to be violated and how good of a job they can do to get you deeply hooked, so that when the abuse starts you will stay. The better at bombing the psychopath is, the harder it will be for you to escape. Nobody is lured by anyone through initial criticism and abuse.
They're most dangerous when they take the role of super nice and compassionate, even holy.
This is a perfect word for Cindy. Duplicity. The idea of doubleness is at the core of duplicity. Duplicity comes from a Latin word meaning double or twofold, and its original meaning in English has to do with a kind of deception in which you intentionally hide your true feelings or intentions behind false words or actions. If you are being duplicitous, there are two yous, the one you're showing and the one you're hiding. And key to the idea of duplicity, you're hiding that you in order to make people believe something that's not true.
Trust in a narcissist. The narcissist trusts no one. Trust in a narcissist. The narcissist trusts no one.
The question you're following, if you feel anxious, depressed, confused, and you don't trust your own judgment, chances are it's not you, it's
I'm here to tell about a major part of my life. I came from an abusive family of 5. My mother was narcissist. We naturally long for her physical and emotional sustenance, and her protection, and that we have value. Well, that wasn't my mom. She